Hello everybody, welcome to this celebration of the life of the legendary, unsinkable Miss Bambi Lake. My name is David Lawrence Hawkins and I'm going to be one of your hosts tonight for this remembrance. And joining me as co-host with me is the wonderful Leigh Crow.
Hi everybody, I'm so glad to be here so that we can celebrate everything that was Bambi and is Bambi. We're going to have an amazing show for you tonight and a great fundraiser, so...
Yes, if you want to donate in Bambi's name to the Trevor Project, an organization...
Wonderful organization.
Yeah, that helps LGBT kids, and this was specifically a request that Bambi made.
So it was a very important organization to her.
Yeah.
It's about suicide prevention
Yes.
for young people and how to support them in that. And we'll talk more about that as the show goes on.
Yes, and if you want to donate, it's at the Venmo is at Bambi Memorial, just like it sounds. I think it'll be printed on the screen as well. I guess I just wanted to start out by saying something personal to get us going in these remembrances. The thing that I admired so much about Bambi is that she was a true extension of her own heroes. She was a true bohemian. She was a true underground superstar. And oftentimes the hallmark of those kind of people as cultural critics, which is what they so often are, which is what Bambi was, besides being a storyteller and all the wonderful things that she was that she had this sort of innate desire to bring down or to mock the rich and to elevate the downtrodden. And of course she had absolutely no use for the middle class. Who does?
Right.
But that was sort of, and it was in her heroes, Cocteau, you know, everybody, she really truly idolized the underground. And she really had this sort of love-hate relationship with the aristocracy of our culture. So, and it was perfectly illustrated, the last really choice moment I had with Bambi. We were in the car. It was the producer of a show she was in called Tender Is My Loin, that she was singing in. And she's hard to get a laugh out of. You really have to earn a good laugh. And so I had found this clip on YouTube of Barbra Streisand doing a public service announcement for the Retarded Children's Fund. And of course, we don't really use that word anymore. So it's basically 3.5 minutes of Barbra Streisand going, "Look at this little retarded boy, he's so retarded." And it's a scream, and Bambi laughed. And
Not funny,
right,
funny.
Because Miss Barbra Streisand just needs to be taken down off her pedestal
Yes,
with her bad taste.
Yes, send those nails.
Right, right. And so I think Bambi appreciated that. So
I'm sure she did.
the thing about Bambi is even in all of her grand and glorious musings about herself, she really was who she said she was. She really was this underground force of creative power. And she's left a wonderful musical legacy and also a personal legacy with so many people. So who starts this thing off here?
Well, David, let's just get into our first
Got it.
our first number from someone who didn't come from San Francisco, who came here, connected with Bambi, and then learned all about her history. She, just quickly, she was involved with a group called the Angels of Light that came from, evolved from the Cockettes. And those are all, when you hear stories of the bearded glitter drag queen soaked in acid, that's really the school of drag that Bambi sort of led into the next generation.
Right. It was that era's retro culture.
Exactly.
Was all that sort of 30s and 40s glamour and Jean Harlow, and you definitely see it in Bambi's style, that old, but it was done with the sort of the cheeky irreverence of that hippie culture that produced the Angels of Light. So this guy, who for the first clip tonight, made this presentation, came to know who she was, and really admired her and saw, and this is during a difficult period in Bambi's life, but really saw who she was as an artist, and did our first clip, which is a presentation of a song called Jaded Lady.
My name is August, and I'm a gay historian. When I was 18 years old, I knew I had to find Bambi Lake for an interview. I searched and searched and searched. When I asked about her at gay bars, I would get kicked out. One day, I was walking around Union Square. I had her book in my backpack, and I found her. She was homeless and horrifying, and I thought an interview would never work out. Fast forward a year later, and I saw her at midnight at Carl's Jr. I bought her a steak quesadilla, and her fingernails flicked off the wrapper. My senior year at the University of San Francisco, the Jesuits hosted a film festival where they would supply you with all the equipment you needed. My choice was obvious, a Bambi Lake music video. While the Jesuits didn't show the film, it is a forever documentation of Bambi Lake, my dear friend who I love and miss in her element. Well, here it is, Jaded Lady by Bambi Lake, shot by 20-year-old me on a Tenderloin roof.
Jaded lady, I'll feel your night's desire. Jaded lady, look deep into my fire, 'cause I'm the hottest baby in this town. Jaded lady, now there's a nasty rumor I'm a faded lady without a sense of humor, but jaded lady takes it, she takes it lying down. Speak Russian and my lips drip with passion. It's just my fashion, I'm doing my best to cash in before I'm cast aside. Oh, honey, drift out with the tide. Now don't be nervous if you require my service. Just take affection and make a good connection, 'cause there is only flesh here, there is only flesh here in the night. Speak Russian and my lips drip with passion. It's just my fashion, I'm doing my best to cash in before I'm cast aside. Oh, and drift out with the tide. Now don't get nervous if you require my service. Just take affection and make a good connection, 'cause there is only flesh in, there is only flesh here in the night.
Wow, that was great.
Yes.
So I want you all to know that Leigh and I are watching these videos for the first time along with you. So that was amazing.
Yeah, wonderful song that I love, written by Scrumbly Koldewyn, and the pianist on that number was Birdie Bob Watt, one of our producers here tonight. And I just want to mention that we are staying COVID safe here at Oasis. We've got our crew mask and far away from us, and David and I are staying at a safe distance.
That's right.
Yeah, so please don't worry about us.
I had a restraining order
Yes.
against her anyway, so.
6 feet, David.
6
6
yeah, right.
feet.
Stop following
All
me.
right, so our next artist is a dear friend of mine and a collaborator that I've played with many times. She was our pianist at our Drag King Cabaret Dandy. She's been all over the world. She's a burlesque performer, wonderful entertainer, and she is going to do a song by another one of Bambi's idols, as David was talking about, the blonde goddess, the glamour goddess, the old Hollywood sex appeal that really appealed to the hippie drag queens that we were talking about, that we've evolved from and taken from their oeuvre. But we're gonna hear one Kitten on the keys doing Lily Marlene, a Marlene Dietrich song.
Hi, it's Kitten on the keys, and tonight I would like to do a tribute to Bambi Lake by playing some Marlene Dietrich. Now, I am from the Bay Area, and I remember seeing Bambi about 40 years ago in front of the Mabuhay Gardens, and she was so glamorous and so beautiful, and I was just blown away by her. And our paths crossed many times over the 40 years that I've lived here. And I was in a show with Bambi. And we were just on our way to rehearsal. We were hanging out at the Rockridge BART station. And I had my accordion with me. And she said, "Hey, do you know Marlene Dietrich?" I'm like, "Sure. I know Lily Marlene." And it turned out that back in the 70s, Bambi used to sing. She was like a punk cabaret chanteuse who would sing Marlene Dietrich before a lot of the shows on Broadway. So it is an honor to play this for her. Underneath the lantern by the barracks gate, darling, I remember the way you used to wait. 'Twas there you whispered tenderly that you loved me. You always be my lily of the lamplight. Wie einst Lily. Time will come for roll call, time for us to part. Darling, I'd caress you and press you to my heart. Then, neath the far-off lantern light, I'd hold you tight. We'd kiss goodnight. Wie einst Lily Marlene. Wie einst Lily Marlene. Orders come for sailing somewhere over there. All confined to barracks was more than I could bear. I knew you were waiting in the street. I heard your feet. We could not meet. Wie einst Lily Marlene. Wie einst Lily Marlene. Give me a rose to show how much you care. Tied to the stem, a lock of golden hair. Surely tomorrow you feel blue, and then will come a love that's new for you, Lily Marlene. For you, Lily Marlene. Rest in power, Bambi.
Oh, thank you, Kitten.
Yeah, thank you, Kitten. I understand that she's in the chat, so
Yeah, that was beautiful.
that was really, really
And
wonderful.
you saw Kitten's Venmo come up there. You can also, as well as donating to the Trevor Project in Bambi's name, you can also tip your performers. We're having a little bit of a hard time here in this COVID times where we have no clubs or places to play. So here on the internet is where we're playing and where you might show your love. We certainly appreciate it. That was Kitten on the keys.
Yeah. Now the wonderful thing about doing a Dietrich song, and Dietrich was definitely a huge influence on Bambi, is that it harkens back to a period in Germany just before the rise of fascism, known as the Weimar period, which was really marked by this sort of ironic, divine decadence, like in the movie Cabarets that they talk about. And both of those elements were definitely part of her persona. What I liked about when she would do covers, whether it was Bowie or Dietrich, is that she would mine every level of meaning out of it. So she was always looking at it not only as a literal song, but as what it was saying about her, about what it was saying about culture, because she understood that, and she learned it from someone like Dietrich, who really was, I think, the first ironic star.
Well, I'm glad he's here. No, very well put, David. Thank you. That's very thoughtful, and I think Bambi probably sometimes didn't have that much thought put into it, but you can. As
Right. No, that's. I'll say this. But it was not calculated with.
So very natural and amazing and
intuitive.
Yes, there we go. I'd like to just talk about this very beautiful portrait by Thomasina de Mayo. This is an amazing portraiture of Bambi. It captures so much, and it is at the end. It was from Tender Is My Loin, I believe. I mean, really near Bambi's end, and I really just think it captures her force entirely. It's a very powerful and moving portrait. So thank you, Thomasina. Really amazing.
Bambi leaves behind a legacy of poetry and writing and songs. Now, Bambi had never studied music. She studied the world, and she studied life, and she absorbed the details to create poetic imagery through words. But sometimes, she needed to work with somebody who was maybe more musical to help realize her vision, and no more so than the collaborations that she did with our next performer, who is Jonathan Bassil, who co-wrote Golden Age of Hustlers, of course, her most well-known song, but many others as well. And he has a special tribute to bring tonight. So welcome the video for Jonathan Bassil. Let's watch.
Hi there. I'm Jonathan Bassil, and my connection to Bambi goes back to '94 when I was doing Paved Paradise with John Kelly as Joni Mitchell, and Kenny Melman was on keys, and I played guitar. And Bambi saw our show and approached me afterwards and said, hey, I've got a bunch of poems I'd like to help put to music. And so would you like to help me? I said, sure. So we spent many a day with pen, paper, and tape deck guitar going through all these different tunes that we ended up doing. You'll hear a bunch of them tonight, I think. And each song was kind of a touchstone of another artist. Like Baba was Brian Ferry, and Golden Age of Hustlers was Neil Young, and Viking Dan was Joni Mitchell. Anyway, we kind of snarfled through all these different versions to find things that we liked for each song. But anyway, this one was a power pop song, Freddie. And this was kind of a lover she had during the sort of punk rock mab days. And this is for Bambi. This is Freddie. I'll see if I can get through it. A lot of words. She had a lot of words. Freddie came from London back in '78. During punk rock it was really great. Susie Sue, Generation X, madness to specials and X-ray specs. We wore draped jackets, smoked Dunhill cigs, made love like a pro, and we called him Jigs. He liked me to dress as modesty blazed. We read Melody Maker in cheap cafes, in our day-glow mohair sweater face. We were so darn chic in those 70s Vivian Westwood days. Walking down the street, we were all turned out. Freddie got shady, cunning and vain, did burlesque and groovy and flake cocaine. Our affair was always one-upmanship. He got a motorcycle, I got my tips. He told me he slept with early dates, but I got him in the end. I told him I slept with Danny Avenger, and that was Freddie's very best friend. He was always working on a story that have me as the Countess Midori. But after bodybuilding and the market aside, heroin, oh my God, he got deported. I hear Freddie's married now and lives in Japan, making movies with Claude Van Damme. Right on, baby, I always knew you was a real man. In our day glow mohair, sweater face, we were so darn chic. In those 70s Vivian Westwood days, walking down the street, we were all turned out. What's it all about? Freddie. What's it all about? What's it all about? Freddie. What's it all about? Freddie. What's it all about? Freddie. Rest in peace, Bambi.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan's such a great, great composer. I mean, those are such catchy and wonderful songs that he and Bambi wrote together. Some of them are just so amazing. As you'll hear later, Golden Age of Hustlers is just a song that resonates with so many people, and it's such a great number. We'll hear that later, but thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So up next is someone who helped to who put Bambi's words in print. She's a poet and a writer herself, but she's also a publisher with Manic D Press, a very significant,
Punk rock!
yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Coloring books.
Yes, yes. Books!
Yeah.
Yeah, books!
But she's going to be actually, I think, reading a couple tribute pieces, I believe is what they told us. I'm not sure. Oh, well, we'll just see, won't we?
She'll tell us.
Yeah, she'll tell us. So her name is Nicole Henares, and let's listen to her.
First met Bambi Lake in August of 2001 when I moved to San Francisco with the hopes of becoming a high school English teacher. I was still working on my master's thesis that was about the use of spoken word poetry as a way to help students see themselves in the curriculum and find their voice. And yet, I didn't think of myself as a poet. Maybe Bambi knew this because intuitively she came up to me and said, "Are you a poet?" And I said, "No." And she said, "But you're writing something there. Are you sure you're not a poet?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, do you write poetry?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And she said, "Well, then you're a poet." And thus our friendship began. She told me what poets to check out. She told me where the cool spoken word poetry readings were. And in the aftermath of 9/11, I used to wait for her at Specs every night, looking forward to what she would say about the things she heard on Charlie Rose the night before. We had wonderful conversations about how the average American couldn't even spell Afghanistan and the logic that Grendel killed the Danes just because he was evil. Bambi was a highly well-read, educated, brilliant woman. Above all, I learned from her never, ever, ever, no matter what had happened to me or no matter what would happen to me, to ever see myself as a victim, that I was very much a survivor. The last time I saw her in person was right before her Oasis show and her comeback. She was wearing sparkly Betsy Johnson heels, and she really hoped that the audience would understand and see her as a survivor, not a victim. And with that, I'm going to read my favorite poem from Smash and Grab that was actually on Christopher Robin's refrigerator for many, many years. And it's just an example of what a stunning manuscript smash and grab is. She said it's a screenplay, an opera, a Showtime sitcom. Above all, it is an impressionistic, nonlinear record from a female mind. Before I read the poem, I just want to say about 2001 that not only did I question my own ability to spell the word Afghanistan at that time when there was, in the post 9/11, I also want to say I didn't understand what it was to be transgender. I knew that I was a heterosexual or heteroflexible woman, but I didn't even understand my own femininity. I had seen the movie True Wang Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and I knew about drag, but I did not know about what it was to be trans. When I read Bambi's poems for Smash and Grab and helped her type the manuscript, that's what taught me what it was to be transgender. Of course, Bambi gave me a reading list to further my education. But I just want to say, as a feminist, as a women's spirituality PhD candidate, I want to argue that trans women are absolutely women. And I want to acknowledge that it was Bambi Lake who taught me that. So here's the poem for Beanstalk. Now you're climbing up that beanstalk, and you're way high above me. You certainly got my attention. I raise my French horn to my lips to play the solo of Impossible Love Lost for the Aristocrats again, from Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony. And the suffering is eternal, old and expensive. All love is suffering. Yearning is human. I'm getting used to the shadowland you forced me to see. And I can only make jokes now, as I accept it all. The joke that we're lovers, the joke that we're married. This is my convent. It's a riot. It's a drag. I feel like a saint, like a ghost, like a fool. But oh, the rewards, your little candy rewards. I'm a useless parasite with an ancient score to settle, an idiot with perfect balance. I'm a deranged actress with a Zen meditation room. I have a master's degree in jack-o'-lanterns. Love you, Bambi Lake. I will always remember you, and I am honored to have been your friend. So much that I wore the sequins tonight, just for you.
That was stunning.
Thank you, Nicole. That was very moving.
Yeah.
Very moving, and really just shows you really what a beautiful poet Bambi really was.
Now, somebody who has believed and never stopped believing in Bambi is Birdie Bob-Watt.
Against all odds.
Yeah, I mean, really, and I don't think that her big comeback would have happened if not for the instigation of Birdie, who really, I think, was instrumental in bringing that together and has always championed her and always stuck by her. So he's going to be performing one of her other most well-known songs and greatest songs. So let's listen to Birdie Bob-Watt sing Viking Dan.
Viking Dan was occasionally arrested for soliciting on Market Street, and sometimes slept in my room on Church Street. Oh, when I lived with Ibesis and the angels of light, I hung my walls with 1920s beaded gowns, while Viking was out somewhere strolling downtown. Around my bed I hung a tent of lavender chiffon, with this classic Teutonic life young body, long blonde hair and light beard. He'd stare out the window looking out at the sky with Dorian gray blue eyes, detached, daydreaming light blue eyes. This was the fairyland I had searched for in my childhood. I was starting to live my life as a girl, and Viking understood. Oh, we were starting to read Genet and Cocteau. Viking was a terrible, terrible flirt, wearing that tatsy sailor shirt. Viking was the first in a very long line of unattainable men to enter my life. You see, Viking never slept with anyone. His classic Teutonic life, young body, long blonde hair and light beard. He'd stare out the window looking up at the sky with Dorian gray blue eyes, detached, daydreaming light blue eyes. Our Victorian was always littered with cardboard sets painted in glitter, swans and planets and waterfalls, big duckies, bunnies, gods and skulls. Then so many years went by, I saw him in the Tenderloin on SSI. Handsome, vacant Viking Dan, hanging out in pool halls with older men. You never became a male model with your face so young and pretty. I guess that you were just like me. You were just Paul Whitegrass from Redwood City. His classic Teutonic life, young body, long blonde hair and light beard. He'd stare out the window looking up at the sky with Dorian gray blue eyes, detached, daydreaming light blue eyes.
Thank you, Birdie.
What a beautiful song. Jonathan Bambi wrote so many amazing songs, and I don't know, you just feel like maybe you were there with all those hustlers. I mean, it really is so evocative. What amazing art. Amazing art. Thank you, Birdie. That was gorgeous.
So remember that tonight is a benefit,
Yes.
benefit for the Trevor Project, and who help LGBT plus youth through issues around self-harm and suicide. They're a great organization, and Bambi requested that any memorial money thing.
You know, and even if you don't have money to give to the Trevor Project, there are volunteer positions where you can text with at-risk youth all around the country. All it takes is a little training and your volunteer time. So anyway, if you can't do it with cash, do it with care.
Yeah. So we're actually going to have Nicole Henares return now for a second tape because she had so much great stuff she wanted to share, and this is stuff actually that other people submitted to her. So we'll be listening for the first time right along with her, but I can just tell by listening to her that she's got something great to share with us. So Nicole Henares.
Following messages are from the poet Christopher Robin and JC in Santa Cruz. They asked me to read these tributes to Bambi. The first is from Christopher Robin, and this is what he says. I was a friend of Bambi Lake back in 2005 to 2008, but we lost touch over the years. I was glad to receive her CD of music back then, which I still listen to. I did an interview with her for Maximum Rock and Roll 15 years ago that was at first accepted and then later rejected because they thought readers would not know her and never published it. Even though to me, she was a queen of punk rock, an icon, and I wrote several poems about her. I had a deep respect for her then and always will. She was irreverent, gaudy, shrill, sometimes mean, highly energetic, a gender outlaw, and a dynamic poet and performer. She knew who she was, and she didn't let anyone take that away from her. I will miss knowing she is on the planet. You were my beautiful Bambi Lake. I am so glad for the time you spent in my apartment eating all my cereal. And these words are from JC, poet of Boulder Creek, California, John Cosgrove. He's without internet, so he also asked me to read these for him. I liked Bambi Lake a whole bunch. We bought each other drinks, just discussed her tell-all book. When it got published, she kept telling me she'd give me a copy until she gave so many away, she told me she was sorry I never got one. We also often discussed her dilemma about which bathroom she would use. That inevitably led to the question of going all the way trans. But I think she had qualms about liking the gay way of life. She was wonderfully sarcastic and told me the book would have blown my mind. With all the people she knew, what places she'd been, and what they did. Sure, miss out on that freebie would have been the best of all. Possibly I'll get a copy to read someday. No, I didn't know Bambi Lake that well, so why am I crying? Adventurous, mischievous, captivating, always interesting to be around. Of course we were both partying while extremely drunk. I think she liked how I could keep up. I met Bambi upstairs at the Paradise Lounge readings. She was the first to tell me to go to the Babar readings. At the Paradise, I also heard David Lerner, Joey Cook, and the only one I already knew at the time, Julia Vinograd. I'll never forget how Bambi blew me away at Specs Bar, where she pointed out Mark Wahlberg. It was amazing who she knew or how she found out what was going on. So again, these are reflections from the poet Christopher Robin and John Cosgrove, JC, who had known Bambi in the 90s. And Christopher is in Kansas, and JC, he's been around for a while. He's in Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Nicole. All right. Well, our next guest is a very, very exciting guest. Someone that I've known for about 1 million years. And quickly, I just wanted to mention that when I first was doing drag, I did an Elvis impersonation. I was called Elvis or Selvis. And when I went to my first Castro Street Fair to perform, and I was in all my drag, and I was received by these queens so well and so sweetly, Bambi included. Bambi told me all about her lifelong love of Anne Margaret, and so we bonded on an Anne Margaret Elvis love affair. But another one of these queens, Miss X, a member of Sluts A Go-Go along with Tippy and Doris Fish, and please, anyone, if you've never seen Vegas in Space, go on Netflix right now and go see it. But they were so sweet and welcoming to me as a drag king. Just, they were so excited to have me there. That then when I met queens from New York or whatever who were just like, why are you even here? I was so shocked and disappointed, and I couldn't believe it. And so I have to thank all these queens for really just encouraging me to keep going and keep doing it. You know, they're so fantastic.
Well, and it really speaks to a different era. When I first met Bambi, we were still in the era where whether you were transgendered or whether you were a drag queen or whether you were a transvestite or whether you were just lumped together. We didn't all have the vocabulary that we have now.
We couldn't specialize quite so
right,
much.
Specialize. And so people just got along, and they didn't really let the labels or misinterpretation of those labels prevent them from being who they were and supporting each other. So that was always something great that was around in that time with Bambi as well.
Yeah.
I remember she did a cover of But I'm Here with special lyrics written that was all once, then you're transgender, then you're queer.
Yeah, right.
You know, like all about how her identity was being changed by the forces around her. rather than herself, because I think she knew who she was the whole time. So, yeah.
So our next guest, a dear friend, parts of Sluts A Go-Go, has been an amazing performer in San Francisco and elsewhere. But I'd like to welcome one of my dearest, oldest friends who married my high school girlfriend. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Miss X.
This is Charlotte rambling on the line. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. I want to talk to Gary Newman. I'm in town for interviews. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. Do you remember Georgie girl? Do you remember Farewell My Lovely? Do you remember the Garden of the Pizzicantinis? This is Charlotte rambling on the line. Do you remember Lucchino Visconti? Do you remember Ingrid Doolin, Elmet Berger, Der Bogart? Do you remember The Damned? Not the band, the movie, darling. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. I'm out here with Jerry Hall and B.B. Buell and Grace Jones, and we want a piece of the action. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. I want to talk to Mikey Nesmith and Evan Dando and Henry Rollins and Marky Mark. Is he there? This is Charlotte rambling on the line. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. This is Charlotte rambling on the line. This is Charlotte rambling on the line.
Oh,
was just
yes.
great. That was just
Yes,
great.
Miss X, you sound and look fantastic.
And that song was, again, by Bambi Lake.
Tell
And-
the story, David.
Okay, so in order to gain entree into, stars' dressing rooms and hotel rooms and wherever she wanted to get, she would call and imitate and say that she was Charlotte Rampling. And if you don't know who Charlotte Rampling is, they mentioned a few of her films in the song, but what did they leave off?
Oh, The Night Porter.
Zardoz!
Oh, Zardoz! What about yes.
No,
The greatest
Zardoz.
film ever made.
But it's a beautiful film, and that was a wonderful rendition. And I can just only imagine this is the resourcefulness of Bambi Lake,
Yes.
made flesh and
Yes,
bone.
and let's not forget the story about when she called in the bomb threat to the Rolling Stones.
Right, who totally deserved it because they're wanks.
So she wasn't allowed backstage, I believe, at the Bill Graham Auditorium.
Right.
So went ahead and called in a bomb threat. And so sometimes she might have been referred to as Bambi Lake.
Well,
maybe once or twice.
You can't have infamy without famy.
I'm so glad you're
Yes.
and next.
Yeah. Oh, well, next up is actually a portion of a film that was done about Bambi.
Oh, yes.
Who's the name of the filmmaker here somewhere? I don't know. I'll have it to you by the time we get out. So
There you go.
by the time we get to the next section. So let's just go ahead and start it. It's from Sticks and Stones. I've seen it before. It's great. Let's go.
In the punk days, it was just me and Ginger Coyote. We were these two crazy street hookers that showed up at the MAB. And we weren't even talking about being transgender. We were girls, you know, we were sort of passing.
I was rather young when I met Jean-Jacques Brunel from the Stranglers. I had just had my breast implants and I was hanging out at the Stone. I looked up at the band and they were looking right down my cleavage. Well, sure enough, I was asked to do the encore, the Tijuana strip. And the next thing I knew, I was all over Europe with them.
I come back from Berlin from hanging out with Iggy and Bowie and Romy, and I have no pictures or proof. Somebody once said, do you have any pictures of you in Berlin with Iggy and Bowie? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, then it didn't happen. You gotta just believe it. You know, that punk moment, it was the beginning of the spoken word movement, or Nobody Rants Like Exene. She and Henry and Jello kind of spearheaded. Exene and Henry are mentors of mine. They were able to get people to know who I was. And all the boys were like 17, 18, and they had record contracts. And Penelope Houston introduced me to Billy Idol. He's like 17, and I'm shaking his hand. It's like, this was a high voltage place to be. I didn't perform a lot until the MAB, and then I performed every week.
The Mabuhay Gardens was like the CBGBs of San Francisco.
I got to open for every single English rock star. I mean, I opened for Madness, for Christ's sake.
We have that legendary show queen, Miss Bambi Lake.
I was always really intimidated by songwriting because, you know, when you listen to like a Susie Sue album in those days, I'm like, I can't do that. It took many years to get pen and pencil. I had to sort of turn 40, I turned 45. And at that point, I had enough stories of, you know, how the things that I got away with and the pranks I pulled. I'd never written songs, but I knew that Joni Mitchell just basically wrote about her ex-boyfriends. One night I just sat down and started to rhyme the poems. And I wrote a song called Baba, which was about Baba from the Zeros, and Freddie, which was about a Clash roadie that I was in love with. And then I just wrote about San Jose Johnny.
Prettiest boy I ever saw was San Jose Johnny the Libra. They don't make them like that anymore. My baby face Clinton.
Thank you. Now, I want to just say that if you ever hear a drag queen who has a network TV show contest call themselves punk rock, I would like you to think back about how Bambi was really punk rock, motherfuckers, okay?
And as you can tell just by the stories and by the people that are involved with tonight's memorial, that Bambi covered a lot of ground. She was not part of one scene. She was a singular force of nature, and she could move from punks to the drag scene to the poetry scene and just retain herself.
Or like be Marlena at the Mabuhay Gardens.
Right.
Like, how do you do
Right.
that? But you do that if you're Bambi.
Right.
Right? If you're punk rock, you do that. You
Right.
just, this is what I'm doing, I'm here, watch me.
Right, and so
You know?
when you see something like a Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and you think, well, how could someone like that's so fantastical, how could they, you know, I'm not saying that there was any connection there, but in the grand scheme of things, there is a lot to be said in terms of that iconography that Bambi certainly lived for reals. And I know she thought that Hedwig ripped her off. She told me.
Of course she did.
Yeah, of course she did.
And remember, friends, this is a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, and they really do great things. So if you can donate with money or time, please do.
So up next, we're going to have the oldest living Confederate widow in show business. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be Timmy Spence, who is also just beloved and has two things to present. Everyone loves him. He's hard not to love, and he and Bambi have a long history, and I think we're going to get a little taste of that. So let's go and see Timmy Spence.
Hello, welcome to the desert. I'd like to do a song or sing a song for you guys that was one of Bambi's favorites. One of my favorites, too. She loved the standards, but as some of you probably know, she was also in the rock world as well. This is a rock song that she loved. It's Lady Stardust by David Bowie. And if you listen to the words, it's pretty autobiographical. It's very Bambi. And I was thinking that if you probably asked her if she was still alive today, she would tell you that David Bowie wrote this song about her. People stared at the makeup on his face, laughed at his long black hair, his animal grace. The boy in the bright blue jeans jumped up on the stage, and Lady Stardust sang a song of darkness and disgrace, and he was all right. The band was all together, yes, he was all right. And the song went on forever, and he was awful nice, really quite paradise. And he sang all night long. Femme fatales emerged from shadows to watch this creature fair. Boys stood upon the chairs to make their point of view. I smiled sadly for a love I could not obey, and Lady Stardust sang his songs of darkness and dismay, and he was all right. The band was all together, yes, he was all right. And the song went on forever, and he was awful nice, really quite paradise. And he sang all night long. Oh, how I cried when they asked if I knew his name, but he was all right. The band was all together, yes, he was all right. And the song went on forever, and he was awful nice, really quite paradise. And he sang all night long. And he sang all night long. And he sang all night long. The sun's going down, at least from where I can see. A couple other things that I want to say. This might just be a practice run, but I first met Bambi when she came to audition for a show we were putting together. At that point, it was called Jane Champagne. Eventually, it was produced as Femme Fatale. This was in 1976. I was living with Hibiscus and Angel Jack at 20th and South Van Ness, and Bambi came to audition for this show. I think she did that song Kiss by Marilyn Monroe, and that was also the number that she did in the show. And I guess what a lot of people don't know is her name at that time was Java. So she performed, if you look at the posters for the show, she is listed as Java, which is pretty interesting. The other thing is that Bambi left that scene to be like a dancer in the straight clubs on Broadway. And of course, we were all punks. We were at the Mabuhay Garden 6 nights a week. So Bambi definitely was on the scene. She was always dropping into the MAB. And she danced at the Galaxy. My friend Eric Broger was a male dancer there. And from what I understand, they actually did a love act together, which is great. But she was performing for, a heterosexual dude audience. So she definitely went her own way. I remember one night my friend Mary was at the Mabuhay Gardens, and we ran into Bambi, and Mary was a much more scrutinizing person than I was, especially at that time. And when Bambi had left, she said, "Did you see the shoes she had on?" I said, "No." She said, "They're Charles Jourdan leopard mules." Of course, this was, 1979. And Mary said, "They sell for $229. And I was like, wow, she must really hate this person. But Bambi, my point is, she had the money to throw around, and she threw it around on, who better else? Herself. See ya. Hello, welcome to the desert.
Thank you, Timmy.
Thank you, Timmy.
And the desert looks really nice right now, right?
Alvin San Francisco is there in the Palm Springs area now.
Exactly. We banished Heclina there, so All right. So our next performer, an amazing songwriter, performer, pianist, and a force to reckon with. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about the Coquettes, the acid soaked glitter beard drag queens who put their lens on the 30s movies and brought them to the stage. Here in San Francisco, people loved it. They went to New York and not so much. But anyway, Bambi really, this is part of her whole image, I think, is so similar to this. Their views and their obsessions are so similar.
And their let's put on a show attitude.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So here, a performer that I've worked with many times.
Really a legend.
Yeah, honestly. Here is the wonderful composer, Scrumbly Koldewyn.
So 15 or 20 years after Bambi's involvement with the Coquettes, I was privileged to accompany her on this little song in honor of Doris Fish for the celebration of Doris's life. Doris was still alive then. And she impressed me so much because she was singing not just a simple little song, but she was singing about how hard the struggle for her was to just live her dream and how determined and how brave she was. Once a jolly swag man camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolipper tree, and he sang as he watched and he waited while his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Up jumped the swagman and sprang into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, said he, and his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me.
Thank you, Scrumbly. That was wonderful. And that's a very legendary moment in Bambi's life when she performed that at Doris's memorial and just was the absolute star of that show. Everyone still talks about it. So speaking of stars, we in San Francisco have a community of performers that they don't all perform together, but we all support each other and we all know each other over these many years, really starting for many of us through Clubstitute. We'll have a little bit about that in a little bit, because Bambi was definitely involved with bringing the phone off the screen there. With that, but as part of that community, it's funny that the next take is by a woman who never actually shared the stage with Bambi until just this last year, where Bambi was a special guest at her tribute to her Fantasia of Judy Garland if she had performed at the Stonewall Bar on the night of the riots. Called Judy at Stonewall. She was already well known for her Judy Garland impersonation and lots of other things, but she had never performed with Bambi until that show. Even though they'd known each other and we were all, we get drunk together, all sorts of crazy things. But that was that. They finally came together, and so it's really wonderful to have.
I'm so glad you're here, David.
I know Gerard Koskovich,
Yeah.
but I'll do.
Yes.
Wet. But she's just an amazing.
Amazing performer who I've had the pleasure of performing with many, many times.
Me too. And so let's watch Connie Champagne.
The first time I saw Bambi Lake, I was 17 years old. She was at a rock club called the Deaf Club, which was actually a club for deaf people that punk rockers came to, and the deaf folks could feel the vibration of the music through the floor, because punk rock in those days was really loud. And she came up the stairs with an impossibly handsome guy named Freddie, who was supposedly a roadie for the Clash, and she looked like Jerry Hall, the model, and she really did take my breath away. And every time I hear this song, which was written by Scrumbly, Koldewyn, Birdie Bob Watts playing it with me today, I always think of Bambi. Manhattan, your night is finished for me. From your sleepy music, I must fade. So let the night touch its painted cheek to mine. Midnight in Manhattan, the cocktail shaker shaking for us. Hear the neon sing. It brings a picture of romance for us. While the chorus girls sing, we'll have a penthouse rendezvous. You know I can't forget. Midnight in Manhattan, moonlight in your arms. Riding all around the great white city, Times Square plays its naughty games for two. I'll bet you're rich, you think I'm pretty. The cabbie recommends a nest of love for two. Now the cocktail shake is empty. On the terrace blaze a million stars or two. You know I can't forget midnight in Manhattan, moonlight in your arms. Once we had that certain little feeling, like Central Park was only made for us. Now another girl has found that feeling, and I find gems can buy me happiness. Yet some nights I wear a midnight frown. I drink to drown that certain feeling. You know I won't forget it. Midnight in Manhattan, moonlight in your arms. Once we had that certain little feeling, like Central Park was only made for us. Now another girl has found that feeling, and I find gems can buy me happiness. Yet some nights I wear a midnight frown. I drink to drown that certain feeling. You know I won't forget midnight in Manhattan, moonlight in your arms.
Oh, Connie, it was beautiful. You sounded great. You know, and I just want to say this right now. At my funeral, I would like Connie to sing. So, I got that. It's on tape.
That can be
Okay, got it.
So,
no, that was beautiful. Thank you, Constance.
We've only got a few more tributes left, so I just wanted to do one last plug for the Truffle Project. If you would like to donate to Bambi's chosen charity for this memorial, who help with LGBT youth in peril,
Youth in crisis.
Counseling.
You can volunteer to be a tech supporter. So just click on the Trevor Project, and they'll tell you how you can do that.
Yeah. So I met Bambi and at Clubstitute. That was really that's where I met Leigh. That's where I met so many people. And actually, Bambi asked Johnny Cat, who I had grown up with and moved to San Francisco with, to be her backup singers for a show at the Paradise Lounge, where we opened for Hollywood Lawn of Andy Warhol fame. So through Bambi, I got to meet Hollywood Lawn, which was like meeting Snow White. You know, it wasn't somebody that you could really meet, but there she was. I'm always grateful for that. And she introduced me to the music of Bobby Gentry, and people who know me now know that I love Bobby Gentry. And it comes when Bambi would sing, "Lord, He Made a Woman Out of Me," layers of meaning were happening in that song. So it was great. Swamp rock. She could do it all. But at Clubstitute, this sort of creative preschool for a lot of performers, one of the people who founded it is also the person who helped co-write her biography, which was called The Unsinkable Bambi Lake, put out on Manic Depress. And he is a very accomplished and very talented writer.
He's a great writer.
So, reading for us now something that he has written, please welcome on tape the inimitable Alvin Orloff.
Hi, my name is Alvin Orloff, and I'm here to talk about the dearly departed Bambi Lake. Becoming legendary is no easy feat in San Francisco. The city's always been a magnet for larger-than-life eccentrics and creative geniuses. But I think we can safely say that Bambi, who was both those things and more, has become a legend. For half a century, and let me repeat that, half a century, our Miss Bambi entertained, perplexed, amused, seduced, surprised, and occasionally terrorized us. Her exploits and antics will not soon be forgotten. Whip-smart, hilariously funny, and prone to dressing like a vamp from a 1930s movie musical, Bambi was one of those rare people who brought the party with her wherever she went. Around her, the cares of responsible adulthood vanished as she transported you to a parallel universe of madcap glamour and hijinks. She'd discuss art, psychoanalyze you, gossip, regale you with tales of her golden youth, name-drop like crazy, prank you, and maybe draw you into one of her speculative fantasies like, hey Brontes, what if we produced a new wave remake of Gone with the Wind? Being trapped in an elevator with Bambi would be more fun than a day at the amusement park or a night on the town with most people. If Bambi was deliriously fun off stage, on stage she was pure magic. As a singer, she served up brilliant interpretations of songs by everyone from Cole Porter to Jane's Addiction to Bobby Gentry. She sang Dietrich songs in German, and at a Doris Fish tribute at the Victoria Theatre, I saw her bring the entire audience to tears with her plaintive take on waltzing Matilda. Bambi didn't write a lot of songs, but the ones she did, like the deliciously witty This is Charlotte Rampling on the Vine, were terrific. Ironically enough, though, the best song our fun and funny Miss Bambi ever penned was a melancholy ballad, The Golden Age of Hustlers. Everyone cries when they hear that. Her compositions are finally getting their just due thanks to Justin Vivian Bond, and I suspect people will be singing them for a long, long time to come. Bambi was also a fabulous raconteur. One would always run into her at parties, in the kitchen, holding everyone spellbound with her crazy stories. On one such occasion, I think it was Philip R. Ford said, "Oh, Bambi, you should write a book." Everyone laughed, but later on I mentioned to Bambi that if she wanted to tackle a memoir, I'd be glad to help. To my surprise and delight, she took me up on the offer, and after several years of hard work, we produced The Unsinkable Bambi Lake, a fairy tale concerning the dish on coquettes, punks, and angels. It was all about dating Polk Street hustlers, performing with gender-fucked drag troupes like the Coquettes and the Angels of Light, working in decadent European cabarets with Romy Haag, opening for the Stranglers in giant stadiums, and her brief inexplicable interlude as a German Hausfrau, and more and more and more. Oh lordy, what a crazy life. Jen Joseph of Manic Depressed put out the book, and it's still in print if you care to read it. Unfortunately, no sooner had the book come out than Bambi's bipolar disorder flared up. When depressed, she became too paralyzed to leave her room, and when manic, she became grandiose, sexually predatory, and just epically rotten. She got herself kicked out of every bar in San Francisco, and if you haven't heard the story about how she earned the nickname Bambi, be sure and ask someone. Alas, as her illness progressed, the epic turned tawdry. Bambi wound up homeless, meth-addicted, and all but friendless. Everyone thought she'd come to a bad end, but everyone was wrong. Bambi made a full recovery, returning not only to her senses, but to the stage and the world of glamour. She was open about her struggles with inner demons, eschewed self-pity, and never defined herself as a victim. Quentin Crisp once said that only lies are boring, and Bambi never ever wanted to be boring, so she was always honest. I'm not saying she wasn't prone to embellishment or capable of dishing out the blarney, but she never hid the truth about how she felt, what she wanted, or who she was. That's how she became a trans trailblazer without even trying. Her honesty, along with a surprisingly good work ethic and language skills, also made her a good poet. You might want to check out her chapbook, Smash and Grab. Have I mentioned that Bambi could also be a good friend? When my psychic soulmate diet popstitute died, she was there to console me. And I'm not sure I'd ever have graduated from writing zines to penning books without her influence. She was a human catalyst, and her damn the torpedoes full speed ahead ethos inspired a lot of people to do things they really needed to do, as well as allowing her to function despite the cards being stacked pretty heavily against her. Bambi's final comeback tour, accompanied with accomplished with the aid of the fabulous pianist Birdie Bowie, was glorious and glamorous. A series of shows in which she, nearly 70 years old, sang and danced and wowed a whole new generation. There's so much more one could say about Bambi, how she performed with the goth industrial band of the Exterminating Angel, how she couldn't even walk down the street without getting hassled by men, how she avoided getting drafted to Vietnam by telling the induction officers she was gay in the 60s, how as a child she believed with all her heart in fairies. And of course, everyone who's ever met Bambi has at least one really good Bambi story. I miss Bambi terribly, and fervently hope she's up in heaven having a ball with Hibiscus, Diet Popstitute, David Bowie, Jerome Kasia, Sylvester, Miss Kitty Litter Green, and all the other long-gone legends. Fare thee well, Miss Bambi. We will love you forever.
Thank you, Alvin.
Thank you, Alvin.
So, just a note for everyone, all of Bambi's possessions from the time when she passed, which was some gorgeous dresses, personal items and things, those have all been donated to the Tenderloin Museum, so there will be an archive of her things there, which we're really grateful to them for doing
Including,
that.
this is the SF Weekly 2005 Best Unconventional Bombshell. Goes to Bambi Lake, and doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't it?
And this is her sainthood decree from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, saying, Saint Bambi, coquette, crowing at the dawn of genderfuck. So this and many more of
Crowing
her
at the
personal...
dawn of genderfuck, yeah!
Exactly.
Can we hear it?
So
also, yes, this beautiful portrait. Again, thank you for the loan, Thomasina de Mayo.
Yes, this is not going to the archive.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful piece. It's amazing.
And big, too.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone who was involved in this memorial and this celebration tonight. I hope we can really take whatever it is from Bambi, and I like be punk rock, like do you, this is what I take away from Bambi's legacy, is that you can be Marlene Dietrich at the punk rock club. You can be whoever you are, wherever you are.
And the ripple effects of your influence are going to live on and on and on, and that's certainly something that we can say about Bambi, is that she will continue on in the minds and hearts of so many who may never get to know her because of the work that she did that has influenced so many people. I definitely want to thank Dan Karkoska, who produced this event.
We'd like to thank Oasis, and they are trying diligently to now make digital programming for you to enjoy now that we can't be here together. I want to thank Sean Frank, our technical director, so much.
Yes.
Birdie Bob Watt and Dan, really everyone here at Oasis is
the wonderful Leigh Crow.
Thank you. David Lawrence Hawkins. And so, also one more time, we'd like to say, please donate to the Trevor Project.
Yes.
It is a project that is helping LGBTQ youth in crisis and who are feeling suicidal. They have a 24-hour hotline that they can call at any time, or text, or email at any time when they feel in crisis. And I know that many of us who are now older, but certainly when we were children who didn't know about Bambi yet.
Right.
Didn't know that you could be that. Didn't know that you could grow up, to be Marlene Dietrich at the punk club.
Right.
And so please, if you can, donate your cash or your time to the Trevor Project at Bambi Memorial.
And there is no finer way to illustrate the artistry of Bambi Lake and her influence on other artists who can carry her work to heights that even Bambi didn't see in her life. And so our next tape is a rendition of Bambi's most famous piece, which is The Golden Age of Hustlers. And it's being sung tonight by a wonderful person. Well, why don't you introduce her?
Well, of course. And after this song, we'll hear from Bambi herself, and then we'll say goodnight. So I want to say goodnight and thank you for all of you for being here.
Yeah.
And if you donated, thank you so much. But I'd like to just say that our next artist was definitely influenced by Bambi. When we were young folk here in San Francisco, she was so glamorous, so exciting, so on the edge, and so fantastic. She could sing, she was beautiful, and I know that this next artist was definitely influenced.
She's gone on to do a little something with her life.
Yeah, a little bit. But I would like to welcome and thank the beautiful Miss Justin Vivian Bond for being here tonight and sending us out. So a good night to all of you.
Rest in power, Bambi Lake, and
Rest
good
in
night.
power, Bambi.
Good night, everybody.
And here's Justin Vivian Bond.
Hello, I'm Justin Vivian Bond, and this is Nathan Carrera, and we're coming to you from the glorious Catskills in upstate New York. The day after Thanksgiving, we are honored to be a part of this evening. I decided to wear this hand-me-down fur because I thought the luxury and forbidden nature of it would appeal to Bambi, who was first, last, and always a glamorous creature in my world. I know a lot of people had difficult relationships with Bambi. I was fortunate in that I was on certain moments, in certain ways, like many people, intimidated and frightened by her, but I have to say that I was very fortunate that we had nothing but positive experiences. I'm a Taurus girl. I have very clear boundaries, but I was always waiting and ready to let Bambi have her way. I remember doing many shows where I would be on stage and I would look down and there would be Bambi on the edge of the stage, and I would say, "Girl, come up!" And we did many unscripted duets. I sang many songs with her, never relinquishing the microphone. And that was the key. Keep a hold of your estame, of your magic stick, girl, and all will be well. But I will say that I knew Bambi for many, many years, and my favorite memory was one that we shared, which was we were doing a show at the Raz Room, and Bambi came, and after the show, this is a time when Bambi was sober, and after the show, we sat around for hours after the show, and she regaled us with stories, and she did her Joni Mitchell impersonation, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. And another great memory is when I first moved to New York. I was living in an apartment in Bushwick, and the phone rang, and Bambi called me because she had heard I was doing her song, This Is Charlotte Rampling, on the line in my show. And she told me the whole story about that song and about how she had been at a party with the boys from Oasis, and they invited her to the Rolling Stone after party. And this is a legendary story, which is how she got her name Bambi Lake, when she had, and I believe Miss X is doing the song in the show today, but she called in a bomb threat on the Rolling Stones after party, and she was so pleased with herself when she called me to tell me the story. She's like, "Girl, you got to put this in the show. It has to go with the song." And so Kiki and Herb did that song for many years, telling the story of Bambi calling in the bomb threat and being hauled off to jail and thrown in the queen tank. But on her way, they had to pass the Red Room where the Rolling Stones after party was, and she was very happy that while she was on her way to jail, she saw that they were all standing in the street waiting to get back in, just like she had been. So Bambi did her own form of justice, I guess, and I hope I will do her gorgeous song, The Golden Age of Hustlers, which is probably my favorite song ever written. I hope that we'll do it justice today. And bless Bambi wherever she may be, and I hope that someday we're all together sitting in some cafe smoking cigarettes and talking shit about God. So here we go, The Golden Age of Hustlers. San Francisco, long ago I made my living hooking on Polk Street and the old black rose. My eye was always looking for some dumb man to pay my rent and some young man to love me. With so many heaven sent, I thank the stars above me. Sticks and stones could break my bones, but names can never hurt me. The queens and the hustlers of the red light zones never did desert me. The scent of men and prospectors, they drift up from the grub stake, where I shared so many cheeseburgers with my hustler husbands. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. I saw the best bodies of my generation, sold, bartered, and destroyed by drugs and prostitution. Pretty queens on the corners and midnight cowboys in the doorways. If you want it, daddy, get it here. It's a candy store in more ways than one. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. The queens and the hustlers of the red light zones never did desert me. Golden girls and boys, all much like chimney sweepers come to dust. It's hard to find someone you can trust amidst the rhinestones and the rust. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. Prettiest boy I ever saw was San Jose Johnny the Libra. They don't make him like that anymore. A baby-faced gentleman outlaw. Some of the boys became like kings and stayed down there forever. And some of the girls became like stars with money, clothes, and fancy cars. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. The queens and the hustlers of the red light zones never did desert me. Golden girls and boys, all much like chimney sweepers come to dust. It's hard to find someone you can trust amidst the rhinestones and the rust. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. In the olden days, the golden age of hustlers. Bless you, Bambi. Rest in peace. We love you. And I love you all. Thank you. Nathan Carrera. Bye.
Golden age of hustlers.
I realized how heartbreaking the song really is. It's a sad song, dude. There's a line about everyone's dead of AIDS. My brother died, all my friends died, and that's what it's about, death, you know, and moving on. Somehow I was able to, you know, create that song, and that became, you know, it was a chapter in the book. It's a chapter in my life, you know. Bambi Lake, the beautiful, the sad Bambi Lake, the coquette era, the punk era, and today.